Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Omar Harris, and I am back with another video for y'all. So, man, I just felt so compelled to make this video, man. Being a diehard Michigan fan, I've been a Michigan fan for about 28 years since 1997, back when Charles Woodson played for Michigan and helped them win a national championship. I'm just dumbfounded as far as the recent news um, with former head coach Sherrone Moore being not only fired from his head coaching position, but sitting in a jail cell, being detained in jail for allegations of assault. So it's funny how the events that just recently transpired, because about 3 weeks ago, you guys would be, for those who pay attention to my YouTube page, I just had made a video that talked about accountability and discernment on November the 22nd. You can check the archives. And it's funny how I made that video 3 weeks ago, and then news like this broke out. So what I'm going to do today is that this will be part two of the whole accountability and discernment lesson. We're going to touch on the events from the Sharon Moore story. I'm going to give my take on those events, and then I'm going to give somewhat of a warning for my young folks out there, because everything that goes on is something that we can all learn from. So from the little research that I've done, former Michigan head coach Sherrone Moore just recently got fired. I want to say as of December the 10th, fired with cause. So that means that whatever, I think he was signed to a 5-year deal, and this was at the end of his second year as the head coach at Michigan. So with him being fired with cause, them remaining 3 years of that contract, Michigan are not responsible for paying him the remaining money of his contract. So he's been fired without cause because he had an inappropriate relationship with Paige Shiver or something like that. She was the executive assistant. So she worked for Sharon Moore, as you know, with Sharon Moore being the head coach there. There have been allegedly, Sharon Moore is married with 3 children of his own. I think his wife name is Kelly, if I'm not mistaken. But allegedly, they've been having a extramarital affair. There have been reports that he'd gotten the girl pregnant. He gotten his side chick, whatever you want to call it, pregnant. And so once I'm curious as to how long has Michigan been aware of this illicit affair that's been going on, because I guess there was a tip that was made back earlier in the fall, but at first they didn't have enough evidence to move forward with that case. Things just got swept under the rug and dismissed. So it's kind of interesting with the turn of events of, with us getting destroyed by Ohio State a couple weeks ago, and with National Signing Day and stuff approaching, and the kids are starting to make their declarations after what school they're going to go to, how all of a sudden now all this news had just come to the forefront just out of nowhere. So it's just funny how that timeline of events took place. But what's disturbing in this particular case is that, okay, he got caught in the affair, allegedly got the girl pregnant. He gets fired because that's violating school policy when it comes to that, having illicit affairs and stuff, inappropriate relationships with staff members. That's a big no-no at Michigan. So apparently he goes home to his wife, and he's so distraught about everything that took place that he becomes suicidal, and he tells his wife, I'm about to kill myself. So his wife Kelly then makes a phone call and notified authorities like, hey, my husband here just um he's suicidal, and he just left, and he took some knives with him. and she was able to, ping his location. Now, then there's another incident where after he leaves the house or whatever, he goes to Kelly Shiver's house. And I don't know if they got into any type of argument or anything like that, but he's harassing her. And she's at the point where she's so fearful that she calls the authorities. And to make a long story short, once the authorities were called, he ends up being arrested and he's booked in county jail. And his mugshot is just everywhere, just everywhere now. So that's the timeline of the events. I think he got fired on December the 10th, and then he got booked in jail the next day on December the 11th. And there's no reports as far as what his bail situation is or when he's going to what actual charges that are being brought up against him, or what his next court date or anything like that. But how often have we seen this um, this string of events when it comes down to not only black men, but white men, Hispanic men, Asian men, men that are in a leadership position? They're in a position of power, and it's like they have this terrible fall from grace. How often have we seen that? And 9 times out of 10, it's because it's something about us to where, and we don't think with the head that's on our shoulders. We think with the head that's downstairs, and that gets us in trouble every single time. This is something that I brought up in my accountability and discernment video that I made 3 weeks ago. We make decisions based on the head that's downstairs, and that gets us caught up every single time. I don't know what it is. I know that when it comes down to leadership and positions of power, and this is something that my assistant minister had brought forth to me when me and him was having a conversation at the North Las Vegas Church of Christ. One of the things he mentioned was that when you're in a position of power, that attracts women because women like power. They like being around a man that's considered a leader, that's considered influential. So being in a position of power, whether it's for a Fortune 500 company, whether it's for a university, even if it is just a small profit organization, that's going to, what's the best way that I should say this? That's going to bring a certain level of temptation right off the bat because women are usually gravitate towards men who has some power, who has some authority. So that's why men in these leadership positions got to be extra careful into how they move. Because guess what? People are always watching. They're always watching. And the minute that you slip up, they're waiting for you to slip up. Now, I know that there's been a lot of discussion going on as far as, where folks were trying to get Sherrone more up out of there from the very beginning. If you guys recall, if y'all recall, Michigan for the past 2 years have been underneath a lot of sanctions and underneath a lot of fines. From everything from the recruiting violations that was going on a few years back, as well as the sign stealing scandal that's take place. So after Jim Harbaugh and his staff won that national championship in the 2022, I think it's the 2023 season, after he won the national championship, I believe Jim Harbaugh knew the backlash of everything or the fallout of all those violations. So he got up out of there. Him and his staff got up out of there. And so people for the longest time was trying to figure out maybe it's time for Michigan to clean house and get a brand new staff there. Now, shortly after that, Sherrone Moore, who was the interim head coach while Jim Harbaugh was suspended, he ends up getting the head coaching job and he becomes the first black head coach that Michigan has ever had. So he done already made history. He ends up being the fall guy because the brunt of those sanctions and the brunt of those NCAA punishments fell on him. That's why he missed he missed games both this season and last season. Now, usually after a team wins a national championship, there's usually a year where they get in a slump. So he goes 8-5 the following year, and then he goes 9-3 this year. So we're still somewhat in a rebuilding phase. But it's interesting how he has become the fall guy this whole time, and it's almost as somebody was just waiting for him to slip up. Now, I'm not going to this. I'm not going to try to have him escape blame for anything because everything that transpired, that's all on you, Sherrone Moore. I'm sorry, bro. I was rooting for you. I was rooting for you. I wanted you to succeed. I wanted you to do well. At least be there throughout the lifetime of your contract. But you brought this on yourself. I don't know what kind of punishment or consequences is going to come from um, Paige Shiver, but I think she should bear some of that responsibility too. She should lose a job because it takes two to tango. So I believe that there's some be some punishment for her as well because she knowingly got into a relationship not only with your supervisor or your manager, but you got a relationship with a married man. So what does that make you? One thing about me, I'm going to hold people accountable across the board, whether it's boy, girl, man, or woman, because we all got to know how to move and make smarter decisions going forward. So everybody's being held accountable across the board. So I hate the fact that this has happened. I don't know um what kind of a lingering effect this is going to have on the program because this is a really, really ugly situation. Just when it seemed like things were starting to uptick for us, then we have this scandal, and now things are that's going to affect us in more ways than one. Now another thing I want to do is I want to touch base with my young people out there, my young people that's in middle school, my young people that's in high school, and even those that are in college. Let me just tell y'all something. You don't have to worry about date. I know girls are going to start to look good to you. I know you're going to want to try to get your Mac on, get your mouthpiece going. You want to try to, get with these women. You want to have a girlfriend. You want to be in a relationship. My best bet to you guys is to focus on your academics and focus on getting involved in some extracurricular activities. You do not worry about chasing girls right now. You don't need a girlfriend right now. You don't. You don't need a girlfriend. You don't need to be chasing girls. And you definitely don't need to be out here having sex as a teenager. I'm telling you right now, just looking at these stories that has transpired, just looking at the Sherrone Moore story, looking at the story that happened with the coach at Michigan State, the Urban Meyer situation, any one of them that you want to look into, just looking at those stories, you don't need to be out here having sex, period. You need to wait. You need to wait. Wait to mature. Wait till your mind develop. If you see what a woman's vajayjay is doing to grown men out here, it's making them lose their mind in these streets. What do you think is going to happen when you get a taste of that? When you get a taste of that forbidden fruit? Hello, as a 15, 16, 17-year-old teenage boy, your mind is not even developed fully. Your prefrontal cortex is not even developed. And a lot of y'all aren't capable of making good decisions anyway, so that's just going to add gasoline to the fire. Now you really going to be messed up. You think it ain't going to affect you on a mental and emotional level too? Y'all need to just focus on your academics, focus on learning as much as you can, get involved in any type of extracurricular activity, Don't worry about having a girlfriend. Don't worry about chasing girls. Now, when you go to college, okay, you there to better yourself. You there to set yourself up for a better future. And usually, a lot of the young women that are in college as well, they're on the same page. They're on the same type of timing as you on. So yeah, you will move with discretion. It'll be okay to if you're interested to pursue somebody there. All right. But y'all definitely need to know how to move when it comes down to women, period, and not let your lust get the best of you. Because as you can already see, your fall for grace is going to be so tragic. And there's nobody else to blame but you. So, young men, older men, middle aged men, be accountable, make good decisions, and use discernment at all costs. That's my video. Y'all let me know in the comment section of what y'all think as far as this whole Sherrone Moore Michigan scandal controversy that's going on. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.